I never thought the worst betrayal of my life would happen in front of people I once called friends, but I guess when the mask slips, it slips for everyone at once. We were sitting at our usual spot, a cozy booth at our favorite bar, when she said it. Calm, calculated, like she'd been rehearsing it. I cheated, she said, swirling her drink like it was no big deal. Then with that cold smile I'll never forget, she added, I needed a real man. The table went silent, but not in the way I expected. No gasps, no one called her out. No one looked at me with concern, just a few awkward chuckles. Then, one of my own boys, Tyler, said, well, at least she was honest, bro. I felt the world shift, not because of the cheating, I had suspected it for weeks. The late nights, the mysterious texts, the sudden interest in dressing up for girls' nights that never included a single selfie or tagged location. No, it was their reaction that hit me. The people I had considered my inner circle looked at me like I was the punchline to her joke, like my heartbreak was entertainment, my humiliation, background noise. I could have exploded. I could have flipped the table. Instead, I did something that scared them more than rage ever could. I smiled, calmly, no sarcasm, no bitterness, just the kind of smile that says, you have no idea what you just did. Then I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out my keys, and placed them quietly on the table. They jingled against the wood like a final nail. Cool, I said. Thanks for letting me know. She blinked, confused. The confidence drained from her face for just a second. Wait, that's it? I nodded. Yup. Then I stood up, gave a little wave to the group, and walked out without another word. The moment the bar door closed behind me, I felt it. That cold burn of betrayal in your chest, where love used to be. But layered under it was something new, clarity. They hadn't just betrayed me by cheering her on, they had revealed who they were when they thought I'd break. That was the real gift of her confession. It didn't just free me from her, it freed me from them. Because when people show you who they are, you don't argue, you don't beg, you believe them, and you move accordingly. I didn't go home that night. I drove. For hours. No music, no podcasts, just the hum of the engine and the sound of my breath trying to stay even. I thought about the sacrifices I'd made, the job opportunities I turned down to stay close to her. The nights I covered her half of rent because she said her check was short. The time I spent defending her when my gut told me something was wrong. And then I thought about the way she smirked when she said it. I needed a real man, as if love was a test I had failed. Around 3 a.m., I stopped at a 24-hour diner, ordered black coffee, and sat by the window, watching the snowfall. And that's when I made a decision, not out of spite, but out of power. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to post some revenge rant on social media. I was going to do what they never expected, rise quietly, strategically, completely, because they thought I'd crumble, but I was about to rebuild without them. The first thing I did was move out of the apartment, not the next day. That night, I had savings. I'd always kept a quiet emergency fund. I used it, packed my essentials, booked a hotel, and called my landlord to terminate the lease. I paid the penalty, didn't argue, just got gone. I left her a note on the counter that read, "Thanks for being honest. Good luck with your real man. This one's gone." Over the next 48 hours, I cut them all off. Blocked numbers, left group chats, cleared my socials, no dramatic posts, just silence. That kind of silence that rattles people, the kind that makes them realize they lost access, not just attention. I wasn't punishing them, I was reclaiming me. And trust me, nothing disturbs people like losing the version of you they thought they could keep around forever. This morning, I woke up to 32 missed calls, one from her, the rest from the friends who laughed. I didn't listen to the voicemails, but I didn't need to. I knew the pattern. First comes the confusion, then comes the panic, because when you're no longer available to be used, your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. And right now, my silence is screaming in their ears. I'm not going back, not to her, not to them. And I'm not looking for closure either, because closure implies there's still something open. There's not. The door isn't just shut, it's bricked over. I'm building new ones now, new doors, new rooms, new roofs. And the next time someone questions whether I'm a real man, they'll be watching me from the sidelines while I quietly win. Later that morning, I scrolled through the call log again, not out of curiosity, but because I wanted to remember what desperation looks like when it's too late. Most of the calls came between 2 and 4 a.m., the same hours I used to spend talking her through her breakdowns, the same hours I'd stay awake helping my so-called friends out of their chaos, even when I had work early the next morning. Now they were calling into silence. And let me tell you, nothing unsettles manipulators more than when you stop reacting. I finally opened one of the texts she sent, not to reply, just to confirm the timeline. Can we talk? Please, I messed up. It was sent at 3:17 a.m., the same hour she used to tell me she loved me. Funny how the timeline of betrayal and regret always lines up in the dark. I stared at it for a second, then archived the thread. No anger, no satisfaction, just closure on my own terms. Because closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision. By noon, Tyler had texted too. Yo man, didn't think she'd take it that far. Just wanted to say, no hard feelings. No hard feelings? This man watched me get humiliated, laughed like it was a sitcom, and now wanted peace because the social balance had shifted. I didn't even block him, I just left the message on read. Sometimes, the best response is letting people feel the weight of your absence and the echo of their own words. I went to the gym that afternoon, no headphones, just me, the weights, and the sound of my own breath. With every rep, I felt lighter, not because the weight got easier, but because I had finally dropped the emotional baggage I'd been carrying for years. The obligation to fix her, the pressure to make others comfortable while I suffered in silence. Every lift was a reminder, I'm still here, still standing, and stronger than they'll ever know. That night, she showed up at my new apartment. I don't know how she found it, maybe through a friend who hadn't gotten the memo yet. She knocked softly, like she wasn't the same woman who humiliated me 2 nights before. I didn't open the door. I watched her through the peephole as she stood there for 10 minutes, shifting her weight from foot to foot, looking around like the neighbors might recognize her guilt. She knocked again, then slid a note under the door. I waited until I heard her footsteps fade before I picked it up. It said, I messed up. I didn't mean what I said. I was trying to hurt you because I thought you didn't care anymore. Please, just talk to me. I read it once, then again, and then I tore it in half. Not out of spite, but because the man she was writing to didn't live there anymore. That man, the one who tolerated being an emotional doormat, who settled for crumbs of affection and walked on eggshells, he'd packed his bags and disappeared the moment she smiled and said, I needed a real man. Over the next few days, more texts poured in. Friends trying to reconnect, saying they missed the old times. She sent long paragraphs, apologies dressed in manipulation. I was drunk, I was angry, I didn't mean it like that. But here's what they don't understand. When someone shows you joy in your pain, when they smile through your heartbreak, you don't owe them a chance to explain. You owe yourself a chance to be free. One of the mutual friends tried to guilt trip me. You know she's been crying every day since that night. She made a mistake, bro. You were solid. Just talk to her. I almost laughed. Not because of what he said, but because it finally hit me. That's the difference between me and them. They think love means tolerating betrayal. That being solid means being stepped on. That loyalty means staying quiet while you're disrespected. But I know better now. Real love doesn't mock you in public. Real friends don't cheer when you're torn apart. And real men, they walk away with their dignity intact. Each day that passed, I got quieter. Not out of sadness, but because peace doesn't shout, it just exists. Like sunlight on cold skin. Like silence in a room that used to be full of noise. I started going places by myself again, eating alone, traveling solo, and you know what? I felt more whole than I ever did surrounded by people who drained me, because healing doesn't come from fixing broken people. It comes from protecting the version of yourself you sacrificed to keep them around. One evening, I passed by that same bar where it all happened. I glanced inside. Same booth, same people, same drinks. Nothing had changed, except me. I walked past without slowing down, and for the first time, I didn't feel pain, just distance. Emotional, mental, spiritual distance. And that distance, it wasn't loneliness, it was safety. A week after everything went down, I got one last message from her. It was different this time. No excuses, no flattery, just 4 words. Please don't forget me. And for a moment, I sat with that sentence. I let it breathe in the air around me. Because it wasn't just a cry for attention, it was the first honest thing she'd said in years. The truth was, I wouldn't forget her. Not the version she tried to be, not the night she pretended to care, not the smirk she wore as she broke everything we had built. But I also wouldn't carry her with me. Memories are one thing, baggage is another. That message stayed unread. Not because I was being cruel, but because I had already responded with my actions, with my distance, with my silence. She didn't need to hear from me again to understand that the chapter was over. The worst thing you can do to someone who uses control and chaos as love is to stop dancing to their drama, and I had stopped. Completely. I had stepped off the stage and let the curtain fall. I got a promotion at work 2 weeks later. Funny how life opens doors once you stop holding open ones that only hurt you. My focus was sharper, my energy lighter. I was no longer wasting hours rereading texts, decoding lies, or drowning in emotional exhaustion. I was free, and that freedom was louder than any argument I could have had. That silence they all hated, it had turned into momentum, into elevation, into everything they never expected me to become. I started journaling again. At first, just a few scattered lines here and there, but eventually, full pages. Not about her, not about them, about me, about what I had ignored for years, my dreams, my values, my voice. I had been so busy trying to be a good boyfriend, a loyal friend, a reasonable man, that I had forgotten to be me. That journal became my mirror, and every page reminded me that peace isn't found in getting others to understand your worth, it's found in living like you finally understand it yourself. Eventually, I ran into Tyler at a mutual friend's event. He tried to play it cool, like nothing had happened. Yo man, long time. I nodded. Yeah. He shifted awkwardly. No hard feelings, right? I took a sip of my drink and looked him in the eye. No hard feelings, just no room. That line hit harder than a punch. Because he knew what I meant. I wasn't mad, I was clean. And people who mistook your forgiveness for access always panic when they realize the door is locked, even if there's no sign on it. A few months later, I heard through the grapevine that she and the real man had broken up. Apparently, he ghosted her after draining her emotionally and financially. The irony didn't sting. It didn't even satisfy. It just confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't looking for a real man. She was looking for a mirror to reflect her delusions, a puppet to blame, a cushion for her chaos. And when I stopped playing that role, she called me weak. But the strongest thing I ever did was leave silently. Life has a way of teaching you that dignity is louder than revenge. That walking away from people who never saw you is the first step to being truly seen. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need karma to handle it. The greatest consequence they could ever face was my absence, not because I was special, but because I was solid, I was consistent, I was love, and they traded that for a few moments of superiority. These days, I don't tell that story often, not because it's painful, but because I've outgrown it. I don't wear my scars like warnings anymore. I wear them like medals, not to show off what I survived, but to remind myself what I'll never accept again. My circle is smaller now, but it's solid. People who see me, not just when I'm useful, but when I'm quiet, tired, healing. That's the real win, not the moment I left, but the life I built after I did. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't have to prove your worth to people who cheered while you were being torn down. You just have to get up, walk out, rebuild, and live in such a way that your peace becomes the loudest thing they never got to be a part of. Because some goodbyes don't need closure, they need silence. And I gave them exactly that.